I mean, I kept it light. I kept it simple, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just, if I'm on Craigslist trying to find somebody, the next time that I'm online that's not spent working on something that could turn the tide. I mean, the odds of humanity, the odds of the human race achieving the kind of utopia that Gene Roddenberry described are already against us as it is. As this one Buddhist that I met in Las Vegas put it, he said we got about a 25% chance of reaching, what Roddenberry envisioned, and then a 75% chance against us. With odds like that, I ain't got time for a relationship, And I'm not. The last girlfriend I had, Janice Lois Proctor from Port Orchard, she, this being Washington, Port Orchard. And I remember we were in the car one day and she said, well, why don't we strike a happy medium? I'm like, what the fuck does that mean, happy medium? What am I gonna do, save half the world? Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so what, I guess what, we'll just flip a coin to see whether or not it'll be the Eastern Hemisphere or the Western Hemisphere that'll survive? I mean, it reminded me of a Justice League episode where they were fighting this omnipotent android, and the Green Lantern Corps was saying, well, the only way to take this fucker out would be to take out half the planet. And then the Green Lantern John Stewart said, well, half the planet's better than none. Well, what kind of logic is that? We're already worried about radiation from Japan seeping over into the West Coast. We're gonna take out half the planet, and why? Because Janet wanted attention? No. The culture under which beautiful white women are raised has to be radically altered. Has to be. They have to be raised on Captain Janeway from Star Trek Voyager. They have to be raised on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They have to be raised on Xena, Warrior Princess. Or a little known show, Birds of Prey, which was about the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, Batgirl, and the daughter of the Black Canary. And Shamar Moore, who plays on Criminal Minds, I think, he played the cop in the show. And an example of racism and sexism coming together, the very idea of Shamar Moore's black ass curling up with Ashley Scott, who played the daughter of Batman and Catwoman, was simply too much for network executives. So after one season, even though the show was excellent, they cut it off the air. And so, but if the shows like that had been allowed to survive, if women were raised on that, then maybe, yeah, but as it stands, no. The dark side is quicker, easier, more seductive, and evidently it is quicker, easier, more seductive to be a dainty princess on a pedestal than it is to be an independent feminist, independent professional woman. And so long as that is the case, more often than not, so I mean, I'm not talking about the exceptions to the rule, I'm talking about the rule. So long as that is the rule and not the exception to the rule, then, we're gonna be in the same hole that we've been in.
All right, so you've touched upon this before, but can you talk about your first kiss with the nun? You've talked about this before.
Oh God, Ruth Elena, she looked like a Latina version of Sally Field. She wore black all the time. You would think that she was goth or something, but what it was she was, gearing up to become a nun. That's why she wore black all the time. But I didn't notice at the time. This was like the spring of 1997, and we were both going to San Francisco State. And we had 3 dates, the second one being on Valentine's Day, and then I think it was the third date that we were in Golden Gate Park, and we were making out in Golden Gate Park, and that's where my first kiss happened. See, it's in 1997, I was 28. I mean, Drew Barrymore was in that movie, Never Been Kissed, and it was all about a woman who, I haven't seen it, but I assume it's about a woman who had never been kissed until like when she was damn in her middle age. I mean, what does it say about being a nerd in America when, my first kiss wasn't until 28? Damn.